The moisture content of wood is usually expressed as a percentage. This simply represents the weight of the water contained in the piece compared with the weight of the woody substance itself. To work out the percentage mathematically, you simply divide the weight of the water by the weight of the woody substance, and then multiply the answer by 100. Let's say that this piece of softwood weighs 12 grams in its green state. Now let's say that the woody substance in the piece weighs 8 grams. MC as a percentage is 12 minus 8 over 8 times 100, which equals 50%. In other words, the water in the piece weighs half as much as the wood fibers themselves. When a log is freshly cut, the fibers contain a great deal of water, both in the cell cavities and the cell walls. Since the moisture in the cavities is free to evaporate, it's termed free water. As the wood dries, the moisture continues to evaporate until the cavity nearly dries out, after which the bound water contained in the cell walls begins to evaporate. This point is called fiber saturation point, because the fibers are still saturated, even though the cell cavities are now almost dry. On average, this occurs in most species at around 30% MC. Until fiber saturation point is reached, the biggest change in the timber is that it gets progressively lighter as the free moisture is lost. After fiber saturation point, however, the cell walls begin to shrink and get stiffer. This is the process of seasoning. Because shrinkage occurs at right angles to the direction of the grain, a variation in grain angle to the edges of a piece can result in warping as it dries. The most common types of distortions that tend to occur are bow, spring, twist, and cup. Uneven drying stresses can also occur when one edge or one face of the piece is exposed to the sun, which will cause those cells to dry more quickly. The outside or case of a piece of timber always dries faster than the core, and therefore tries to shrink more quickly. If the surface tension increases to a point where the fibers can no longer hold together, cracks will develop to relieve the stresses. These cracks are called surface checks. Wood is hygroscopic by nature. In other words, it absorbs and releases moisture according to the environment. Eventually, all timber exposed to the atmosphere will reach equilibrium moisture content. That is, a moisture content in balance with the surrounding air. So you can never air dry a piece of wood to 0 MC because the air itself always contains some moisture. EMC in most indoor coastal situations is between 10% and 15%. Once timber is seasoned, its MC will only change as the humidity or moisture content of the air changes.